Soul or consciousness, where is our true essence hidden? What is the soul, and where does it delineate from consciousness? A person is endowed with the ability to observe not only the stars, but also their own thoughts. Consciousness is a stream of reflections of the world. It is where language, memory, and imagination are born. But behind this stream, a quiet eye is felt, one that cannot be reduced to neurons or brain chemistry. The soul is not an object of experience, but a question that seeks its own answer. Perhaps it is not a thing, but a movement, a connection between the infinite cosmos and the fragile body, between the temporal and the eternal. Welcome, friends. Here we talk about wisdom that has survived the centuries and is very relevant in the modern world. Before we continue, please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your impressions. You'll learn a lot of smart and useful things here. Our topic today is soul and consciousness, which will surely interest each of you, as everyone would like to know more and in as much detail as possible about both the soul and consciousness. So we begin. Rebirth or illusion? The soul's journey through the ages. Is consciousness immortal? Buddhism, science, and ancient ritual will answer these questions. Aristotle noted that the study of the human soul is knowledge of the most sublime and wondrous things. There is much more unknown within a human being than in the depths of the ocean or in the vastness of the infinite universe. There is a field of science that touches upon the soul, psychology. The very word psyche in Greek meant soul. But science, although it bears this name, the study of the soul, has little to do with the subject itself, the soul. Because the soul is even greater than consciousness itself. After all, consciousness is closer to the soul, but human consciousness is not yet the soul, as science defines it. Consciousness is the highest level of human reflection of reality. Thanks to consciousness, a person feels separated from the environment, meaning all objects and the entire world do not belong to us, to our natural body. And we can ignore the environment, adapt it to our own purposes, live without this or that, live with this or that. The world around us belongs to us, is at our disposal. What does our consciousness do? Consciousness is the accumulation of knowledge about the surrounding world, which accumulates within us from infancy. And then, our consciousness, full of knowledge, can and does transmit this knowledge, expressed in signs, symbols, and words, to others for further development. Consciousness is not stagnant water in a swamp, but a flowing river, moving and turning the turbines of progress. Consciousness is meant to work, and it cannot not work. That is how its nature is designed. It is thanks to consciousness that man has advanced from nature and the animal world to a higher level of existence. Thanks to consciousness, man has access to imagination and speech. Human perception of the world, thanks to consciousness, possesses objectivity, while memory possesses arbitrariness and choice. For example, we remember bad things and events for a long time, but often forget good ones. Our thinking, also thanks to consciousness, possesses abstractness and an ineradicable desire to know everything and everyone, even ourselves. The human soul. And so, this very consciousness led man to think about his soul. Only on at the end of the 20th century, science began to seriously address this question, questions about the soul. Do humans have one? What is it like? What does it consist of? And where is it located within a person? Based on religious beliefs that the soul leaves the body at the moment of death, scientists decided to record this. Supersensitive scales were created. It turned out that a person's weight decreases at the moment of death. Considering everything, including the last breath and the loss of electrical potential, a person's weight decreased by 3 to 5 grams. So, it would seem, there's a soul. The experiment was repeated several times, and each time the deceased weighed 2.5 to 6.5 grams less than the living. The difference was attributed to how much each person had accumulated in their soul. Scientists assume this is the weight of the soul. So, it exists. That was the answer to the first question. They didn't stop there. The next question, what does it look like? This, too, seems to have been solved by scientists. Using a series of infrared and ultraviolet instruments, they were able to record an egg-like object separating from the human body at the moment of death. The egg size is certainly not large. It's not like some kind of aura surrounding a person during their lifetime. In some cultures, the egg is a symbol of life. This was a partial answer to the second question. Because it's still unknown what the soul is made of, and we probably will never know. And it seems the answer to the third question has been found. Where is the soul located in the human body? People used to think that the heart was the seat of the soul. Thoughts originate from the heart, grievances are hidden in the heart worries about loved ones, and love is felt with the heart. But today's scientists and researchers believe that the soul resides in the brain, next to consciousness, and consciousness can sometimes guide emotional impulses, sometimes stopping them with logical and sound judgment. More specifically, the small pineal gland, the epiphysis, is considered the seat of the soul. Scientists who believe this gland is responsible say it is all that remains of the third eye, once located at the back of the head. There is a hypothesis that the third eye not only aided in 360-degree vision but also enabled a person to see the essence of objects, examining them from within. Many abilities are attributed to the third eye. It allowed one to travel to any part of the world without leaving one's seat, to uncover the mysteries of the universe, and to know the past and future. It seems that materialism has won. However, humanity is so numerous that the advanced knowledge that drives progress and development is not accessible to all. And only a minority of the population believes in materialistic truths. The majority, however, cannot break away from the truths of the past. To this day, entire peoples, nations, and entire countries remain believers in gods, in the afterlife, in mysticism. Look how we bury our deceased ancestors, fathers, and mothers. We perform ancient rites, even though we live and work in a developed world with scientific advances, with spaceships plowing the vastness of the universe, and artificial intelligence. Funeral rites were born from the same concepts of the human soul, which, as man still hopes, never dies. Eternal soul? Almost everyone on earth has thought and continues to think this way. But regarding the path of the soul after death, there have been a wide variety of assumptions. Humanity has traveled a vast distance over the millennia in its views on its fate after death. According to the first accepted customs, the body was buried near settlements, and the soul of the deceased, so that it would not disturb the living, was guided through rituals to the afterlife, a world about which each people had its own ideas. In many languages, the same word meant both soul and breath. This is understandable, since breath left a person after death, and this was easily associated with life. Breath represents a cloud of air, imperceptibly turning into an air current, and then into wind. From the image of a flying wind, it's very close to the image of a flying bird. Therefore, the idea of the soul as a bird is also typical of antiquity. But among some peoples, the soul was located in certain parts of the body, in the heart, liver, or kidneys. And this was a different cult. Thus, in Egyptian burials, internal organs are found removed from mummies and placed in separate vessels. Early class societies were characterized by the idea that only the noble and wealthy would enjoy bliss in the afterlife, while the rest were given the same hard and joyless existence. Pharaohs and nobles were sent to the afterlife with enormous treasures, food, and other things. The poor sometimes didn't even have the means to preserve their bodies incorruptible. In many peoples, in ancient times, it was also believed that humans had many souls. One soul is the breath, another is the life force, and then there are the souls of the bodily organs. In ancient China, for example, among the many souls of a person, there were two primary ones, one of which flew away, while the other remained near the dead body and did not disappear until the body completely decomposed. Australian Aborigines believed that the soul of the deceased does not die until the memory of it among the living disappears. In Homer, the souls of the dead are shadows, deprived of memory and speech. Souls wander through a dark hell, but are revived after drinking blood, temporarily gaining the gift of speech and remembering their past. Ancient people believed that every person has a double. It leaves the body temporarily, during sleep or fainting, and leaves the body forever at death. What a difficult path humanity has traveled. And it still bears this burden of misconceptions and beliefs. Many ancient teachings ascribed a soul not only to humans, but also to everything that surrounded them, animals and birds, rocks and forests, lakes and mountains. One can judge from various perspectives whether it came first, or whether humans first endowed nature with spirits and souls to its objects. Or that the idea of the human soul gave rise to the idea that everything around us is animated. But the idea of reincarnation, or the transmigration of souls, is based on this notion of the universal spirituality of nature. And this teaching is not unique to India. There are also examples in folk tales of a beauty dying, and a tree growing on her grave, into which her soul was embodied. And similar examples, when the tree was replaced by some flower, and so on. In India, the doctrine of the reincarnation of the soul developed into a complex worldview. Following the laws of one's caste constitutes karma, which determines the fate of every being in the world. As a reward for living a good life, a person will receive promotion along the path of samsara, the endless chain of rebirths. For violating the laws of karma, for evil deeds, the soul can be incarnated into a lower caste, or into an animal. Buddhists, who also developed this same idea of reincarnation, completely deny the existence of the soul. But they recognize that our body is not the only thing. A component of the human being. It is the Buddhists who have most closely approximated or replaced the soul with consciousness. The sum total of a person's thoughts, actions, and character traits disintegrates into individual elements after death and is reunited under the influence of karma for a new incarnation in a human body, in a reborn person. A person in samsara even has the right to choose their parents. Their consciousness undergoes terrifying visions, ultimately seeing a couple on earth conceiving a new life, and can enter into the nascent flesh. This has been written about in many books, and for quite some time, the Book of the Dead, for example, as an instruction manual for the behavior of consciousness after death. There is no soul as such, there is consciousness, the human personality, which is passed down from generation to generation. This theory of reincarnation can be confirmed by numerous instances of déjà vu, when a person recalls events that occurred centuries or even centuries earlier. It is as if, in a past life, they were the person their consciousness recalls, who was actually recently born in a different city. There are many instances of déjà vu around the world, and this baffles not only believers but also scientists. And then other questions arise. Consciousness or soul? The afterlife or samsara and reincarnation? This is what we've come to. The soul, supposedly discovered by scientists, may not be a soul at all. The consciousness personality theory of Buddhists may be true. And all funeral rites and beliefs about heaven and hell in the afterlife should already be obsolete. No matter how fashionable religions may seem to us, they are no different from the religions of cavemen. Like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your impressions. Here we learn about what is smart, kind, and eternal. Stay tuned for new videos on interesting topics.